Hello, everybody. It's January 2025. I am kind of like, what happened? Happy New Year, Scott.
Happy New Year.
How are you? I know that you spent going into the new year. You were at AEW Worlds End. You had lots of
Yeah,
stuff
it
in
was it
Florida.
was
The rest of
a
us didn't
lot.
have anything. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was a lot. I know we'll get into it. It was a really fun 2 days of wrestling because the day before I actually went to the last SmackDown of 2024. So I got to do that. That was in Tampa, so it's about an hour and a half for me. And then the next day, got to go to World's End in Orlando, which also had a live event for WWE. So you figure that AEW drew 7,000 fans that were the UCF arena, and then WWE drew as well, what, like 8,000 to 9,000 people for a live event. So same city, two companies, two wrestling shows, both of them filled. So that's pretty much a lot to celebrate, and really shows, how popular wrestling is right now. So especially what a hotbed I guess Orlando has become. So that's good to
I
see.
guess Orlando. I mean, Florida seems to be it. Because they have everywhere, right? You can
Yeah,
go.
if I wanted to do the whole loop around Florida, I'd be there. I'd be gone a week and go to Jacksonville, go to Miami, go to like all those other things. So definitely a lot of hotbed. Well, it's December, January, wintertime. You don't want to be anywhere near, the snow and all that travel logistics wise. A lot of people live in Florida, so it makes a lot of sense that this time of year we get a lot of those kind of events.
Well, we have so much to kind of wrap our head around and discuss a little bit, but tomorrow night is a historic night, Scott. It must be amazing for both of us as longtime fans of the thing and covering the genre like you have. Raw on Netflix, unbelievable. It's going to be such a global, amazing moment for professional wrestling. What are your thoughts, like even going into it, about like what the significance of this is?
Yeah, it's pretty surreal when you think about it. I mean, I you don't really have felt something like this since maybe, I was too young to feel this. Maybe you can draw some insight for this, but when
Hey,
wrestling kind of maybe before your time, I don't even know, but when wrestling hit television for the first time, that was a big monumental thing. It was one of the first things on television. And then you go to cable television and then Nitro and Raw and those shows coming out, liken it to those sort of things. And this is a whole new media. People growing up, they're gonna know WWE Raw on only streaming. So that's like insane to kind of think about. That's what I'm thinking about, is like that era last week. I don't know. I kind of felt like it should have gotten a little bit more. I mean, they had a great video package. They talked a little bit, but I don't
I
think they
did
pushed
too.
what a monumental moment this shift is. And I would have loved to have like a best moments of WWE and USA Network or something. Like their relationship is so deep and strong, and I was just thinking like I wish they had done a little bit more for that. That was the only thing for me.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was just thinking when you were talking about Florida about how I used to go to my grandfather's house in Florida and we'd watch Florida Championship Wrestling on TV. Like that's how back in when it was regional, regional television. I mean, how this has just gone beyond. Um,
Yeah.
Probably anybody's wildest dream in its popularity. I wanted to know though, it's interesting, and this is what I want to get your take on. So my understanding is SmackDown, which will be on USA, is going to be 3 hours, and they're talking about giving a big push to a lot of the young, not the big A-listers, but they're going to like a lot of up and coming talent they want to use too. I'm just wondering what happens in this transition. If Netflix on Raw is the big show, what really is going to happen with SmackDown? Do you think it's going to get like watered out and every
No, I don't think so. I think it's gonna be, they need to put on good big shows for both. You're serving two masters here. You're still serving. You got to serve USA Network, but you're forgetting this is a larger scale NBC. You still have the Saturday night's main event to
yeah,
serve,
yeah,
and those are kind of some big partnerships you right there, and you're still part of USA Network. I guess that's why they're not making a big deal about Raw leaving, because
because it's still
it
they
was
still have
still part of it. So I
mhm.
guess in that sense, I can see why they didn't make it such a huge deal, but I don't know. Still feel like they could have did a little bit more. But I think it's going to be, of course, that's going to be the bread and butter, the Netflix thing, because of just the platform that it's on. But I do think that SmackDown's still going to have a priority as well. I mean, you have 3 hours to fill. You don't want it to crater in viewership.
Well,
So
remember how we've been talking prior to this whole Netflix thing that Raw was 3 hours. I mean, things just felt so long, and a lot of times it felt filler.
yeah,
I'm just wondering if that's what we end up getting over
I'm
it.
see. I'm a big believer in 2 hours. I think 2 hours leaves you wanting
Perfect.
more. It's a perfect time.
Yeah.
You're just exhausting everybody like with 3 hours. Even if you can have the best possible show, but having someone to sit down for 3 hours and watch that is just a chore in a lot of ways. Like I'll often watch Raw delayed and then I'll just fast forward through commercials because I don't want to deal with it. Like it just the breaks in between really kill the buzz. So it'll be interesting how the layout and the format of the Netflix show will be, because I'm wondering how that's going to work and play into the programming. And then see how, the length of the time, how much freedom they have as far as like the length of the show and things like that.
And there was another discussion I was seeing, and it was an interesting point that a journalist brought up about to Triple H. Is it going to be Monday nights on Raw? Will they eventually move the day from Monday to a different day? He said it was a possibility.
Oh, wow.
And so I
I
was
hope
wondering,
not.
what would your thought be, right? Because we're so used to, as wrestling aficionados and people, that Monday's the start of the week and we get Raw. How would you feel if it like ends up on I guess they're going to have to see, maybe they're going to see what kind of viewership it gets if they move.
I don't think that would be a good plan. People have been trained for 30 something years to watch wrestling on a Monday night. Why would you change something that's become such a standard bearer? I know I get you Monday Night Football. You have a lot of competition every night. You're going to have something going against it. So, I think it's on a fine night, but I mean, what do I know? I'm above my pay grade or part of the company or anything like that. So who am I to say? But from my standpoint, I don't understand from a fan standpoint why you would want to do that. But it's interesting that they did say if it's like an international show, they're going to have Raw earlier in the day live. And then, for me, I'll probably still watch it like when I get home from, doing whatever and then wanting to watch it, because that's just how I am. Even with the international shows, oftentimes, unless I'm like home, I'll watch it live. But other than that, I'll avoid spoilers and want to watch it later that night. So
I'm like you. I try to avoid the spoiler. It's so hard with social media. Like when I'm running my website, if I've got to go check on an article on X, and then I'm like, wait, I don't want to know about Tiffany Stratton.
Yeah, I was so mad at one of my friends.
So mad.
So I was out, and then I come home and I'm watching, SmackDown on delay. And then he sends me a random thing on Facebook and he goes, "Is it Tiffy time?" And I'm like, yeah. I was like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" I was so mad.
I was so mad. I was so mad. I was like, oh no, because I wanted to experience the surprise. Right?
And you got spoiled too?
Huh?
You also got spoiled?
Yeah. I got completely spoiled. I didn't know. I tripped on it by mistake on X. I hadn't seen the show. I'm like,
and purposely avoided all that. And that's always that one thing.
And I'm like, are you kidding? Scott and I have been talking about Tiffany Stratton not cash, and they cashed in on Friday night,
which I loved. But
it.
It was such a bummer that I got spoiled too. Like that.
What do you think about the fact? Let's talk about her for a minute. That they did use that SmackDown. She won it at the end of the year, or wait?
No, beginning of the year. The first one of the new year. Right. Yeah,
the new year.
First 3 hour show.
She wins it. Was it because they knew they were moving into this? Because people love her, so I think they needed to make the change moving into the new year with Raw. I mean, do you think it was a way to be a tentpole thing for SmackDown, or what?
I think a lot of things. I mean, I would have loved it for it to happen the week before. What the heck, man? You could have just did it the week before when I was there. But selfishly feeling that way. But I think it's become a point where it's been so drawn out. I think that was the perfect time. Like you've teased it so many times, and you see the reaction she's gotten every time. So that just shows you how excited fans were to see her actually win it, and they knew she had to win it. There was no way they were not going to have her win it. It was just a matter of when and the perfect time for that. I think there was a lot of discussion. I think if you read online reports and things like that, they were going back and forth. They wanted to do a title change, but it was a lot of back and forth if it was going to happen or not. And then they decided to pull the trigger, and now we're heading into, Royal Rumble. So you have a Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton match that you could have at Royal Rumble, if you want to build this up, because we got about 3 or 4 weeks to build the story even more. So maybe they thought that we have this story. This is a big match. Let's do it on a big show. So that's what happened. I think they couldn't have drawn this out till WrestleMania. It's just been too long.
It was been too much. I'm like, please. But I was surprised they did it on a TV show and not a PLE.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised that they did that. You want to show unpredictability. They did it. Actually, they did it with the Motor City Machine Guns. They won the titles on SmackDown. So you just want to make it anytime, any title can change hands at any time. It doesn't matter if it's on a show. I actually thought during the live event in Chicago that CM Punk was going to end up beating Gunther for the title when they had that cage match.
Right.
I thought, this is a chance to show live events. Anything can happen. The way they were promoting that live event, I thought that's where the direction they were going to go in. But, obviously they didn't. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see a title change in a live event in the future too. When they have live events, because apparently there's no live events until March of this year. So, we got some time to see what happens with that sort of thing.
So tomorrow is shockingly, it's not in Florida, it's in LA. Raw on Netflix. It's here in LA. And I want to know what you think about the Seth Rollins Punk promo on Monday got so much traction on social media. Do you feel it was one of the best promos? How they went after it was pretty epic in how they laid it out, and they really built this up. And I thought Seth really held his own with Punk. But how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think they blurred the lines perfectly between, what's reality and what's scripted. And there's a lot of real emotion that you could see pouring out of them. They drew that emotion out. And anytime you can pull from that and get people that captivated, you don't have to be, the internet nerd and watch, follow everything on internet to really feel what they were saying and kind of know it and kind of put 2 and 2 together and say, hey, these guys have a lot of history. They go way back. There's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of hurt and a lot of pain. And then, working through that. And anytime you can draw between that, I was really impressed. Punk is Punk. We know he can deliver on any time. But when the time is right, Seth Rollins is pretty good on the mic. I remember that time when he was the world champion and the architect, and he held his own against the likes of like a Triple H and things like that. So he's kind of grown up in a lot of ways in front of us, in front of the camera, and his skill set when it comes to cutting those kind of promos. And, he's oftentimes seen, not taking things seriously because we think he's over the top with his ensembles and things like that. That could be a little disarming, but the seriousness of that, I think they hit a home run. They drew people in, they built up, they made people excited about this match. And, I think they did a great job. And the timing couldn't be more perfect because the interest is so high going into this show as it is, and you just elevated it even more somehow. So good job for both of those guys.
I want to say just a minute about Seth. So when we get away from I'm the revolutionary, the visionary, like that whole thing, and he can really do what he did, which wasn't all that standard stuff, and he gets into the grunt of it. I thought he was great. We must remember, I think people are lost. Wasn't the Shield protecting Punk back originally? Wasn't that the story? Because they kept talking about that didn't he have a band of people, Punk, when he was in WWE? That I thought the way they were talking was, were they part of the Shield that Punk originally put together? I thought that's what they were saying, and there
was a little bit of a connect, but I don't think that. I think that's a big reach to go that far. But
right.
But I know they went after, that when they first arrived, it was at Survivor Series, and they went after, that was kind of a big thing.
Okay, so what about the man? Because they brought up Becky Lynch. He really went at, Becky and
they
Punk
on everything. Yeah, they went into everything.
Do you think AJ Lee and Becky will show up on Monday night and maybe be in the corner? Maybe there'll be something that happens that brings them both out to the ring during that match?
It's not out of the realm of possibility. I know there was some footage and things of that with AJ in the ring and things like that. So you never know, but I don't know because, they've worked together. Seth and Becky have worked together before, and I don't know if it went as well as they had thought. I don't think, because, Becky Lynch has this personality of being a loner and being someone who's not like this strong, empowering figure. So putting her with Seth, I think, almost did her a disservice at that point because of the trajectory her career was going at the time. But maybe this being at a different point in her life and point of her career and the story that they're trying to tell, I could see it fitting in. It definitely would draw interest seeing an AJ versus Becky match. That's definitely a WrestleMania caliber match too. But I don't know if they would be rushing into that sort of thing. Like this could be the first match of a few matches we see between these.
That's what I mean. I mean, like maybe she comes out in the middle, Becky, because there's been talk of Becky coming back.
Yeah, she's being she was she's in the advertising for everything, which is crazy when you think. Like I'm speaking of that, just crazy though that you're turning on Netflix and you're seeing the advertisement on the screen. That's the first thing you see, first or second thing you see. You're watching Squid Games 2, you're watching something else. You see that advertising, and then when you're watching, the Poor People Netflix, which I have, also Poor People Peacock, you see an ads pop up, and that's one of the ads is the Raw ad. So just crazy though, the audience. So I know I just went on a tangent there, but it just got me to thinking about that. Well, but back to what you were saying, I definitely see her in one way.
Becky Lynch.
I see her in one way, shape, or form appearing tomorrow night for sure.
So we've also got Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. What do you think is going to happen there? The Rock's coming. He's in LA. He's going to show up. Something's going to go down. I think that's when he would show up.
Yeah. I've also saw things that The Rock is like, wanting Cena to have his moment in the spotlight and kind of not being a distraction for that going into WrestleMania. But if Rock is part of WrestleMania, he's going to be like a distraction and kind of pulling away from what we're seeing with Cena a little bit. But I think that'll be very telling if Rock gets involved in that match. If he helps Solo win just to spite Roman Reigns, and then that builds up to Roman Reigns versus The Rock.
Which is correct. Because now that I'm hearing the rumors are Cena versus Cody is what they're saying for WrestleMania was the new rumor that was the headline, which then would put Roman versus Rock if that's true.
Yeah, but this is Cena's last WrestleMania. Like putting Rock on the card in that kind of a match, it just takes away. Like that should be the focal point. Everything should be thrown at that Cena versus whoever match, I think.
Whoever match.
So I'm kind of torn because I think Rock and Roman would be like that would be the match everyone wants to have. I wanted for years, but doing it on a show where you're saying goodbye to John Cena, I don't know. I know even if it's on a different night, I don't know how I feel about that sort of thing.
Well, we are getting John Cena tomorrow night, his first stop on the farewell tour. He is appearing. He is going to be there. That'll get a big, insane pop, I'm sure. I'm going to be interested to see how this farewell tour does because as we talked about last year, when he was wrestling the last few times, he was losing matches. So how do you see this farewell tour going? Does it end with him winning a title?
I think he needs to actually win some matches to build some more legitimacy for going for a title or anything else. He obviously is big on helping the younger generation, the next generation of talent, and not below losing to a guy like Austin Theory or someone if he knows it's going to help them. So I can see them doing that.
That was the worst. I literally couldn't believe what I was watching. I'm at WrestleMania and I'm like, wait, he lost in the opening match to Austin Theory? It was so weird.
I mean, I get the story that like maybe he had ring rust, blah, blah, blah. And it would have been great if they kind of parlayed that match into something for Theory, which they kind of did, but then it kind of fizzled out pretty quickly. So I don't know if that was on him more or on the creative or what they were doing. Maybe they didn't think he was ready or they want to pull from that later on. But I think starting out of the gate, we're going to see him work with the younger, a couple of younger talent and then not use them, but get wins over them. Like he'll share the ring with them and get that experience. They'll get the experience of working with him one last time, but he'll get the wins to build up towards getting a title match or wherever heading into like Royal Rumble or something like that. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to see him win the Royal Rumble and go on to face, like you said, a Cody Rhodes or someone at WrestleMania for the championship. But keep in mind, this retirement tour doesn't run up until only WrestleMania. They have
Right.
a whole year of stories to kind of build towards. I don't know if they're going to have one overarching story that will cover, most of the year, or if it's going to be like, multiple stories. So I'm interested to see tomorrow, because that's going to set the tone for everything that we're going to see.
Well, I'm excited that Logan Paul is going to be part of this, because I think you have to have Logan Paul, because he's such a huge, like, in the face of the world with his YouTube followers and his Instagram followers. It's like such a huge person globally to have on there. What do you think they're going to do with Logan now moving forward? Who will be his opponents?
I think, it doesn't need to have, like, I know there was talk of WrestleMania, but Cena and Logan Paul would be pretty huge going into Royal Rumble for sure. Like, you could build a match starting out that way. Like him calling him a has-been and, I'm this new kid on the block and, all this stuff. And Cena, and, they're both very recognizable figures in different ways, in different audiences and demographics. So I think that would be right out of the gate. Putting him with Cena, I think, would be a very interesting story that they could tell heading into WrestleMania Royal Rumble, and having Cena win that, or building it up on a Netflix coming up in a couple weeks or so. So the Pauls are very big on Netflix, with Netflix, of course, with Jake Paul
Very
as
big,
well.
very big.
And there's talk of a Conor McGregor fight with Logan Paul too. So I could see a Cena Logan Paul face off happening.
I also want to, there's one thing I forgot to bring up that I wanted to talk about with The Rock. You do realize, if you read the news article, he just bought $1 million of stock in TKO. Like, he's a massive now shareholder. He's got this guy is he's gonna, like, isn't he calling whatever shot he wants at this point? He's basically owning the place.
He has a lot of power for sure. Like,
he has a lot of power. It's like, it's a really interesting thing, like where he's started and where he is now. Now, who do you see winning between Seth and Punk? And do you see the audience in Los Angeles and in globally, who do you see them rooting for during this match?
Punk, they love the guy no matter what he does or how, I think they're just kind of equating him. He left the company. It was everything that happened to him. It wasn't his fault, sort of thing. I think that's kind of the mindset they have right now. And Seth coming on, like, Seth just has a natural vibe about him that you just, like, people just want to boo him. And especially his presentation and things like that. Like, I like Seth and everything like that, but I think more on the side of the villainous side. And I think maybe it could go either way. Like, he can snap after losing to CM Punk, and then really that turn kind of really happens, like beats him up and things like that. I think that on the Netflix show, they want to have a feel-good moment. So I think I see Punk beating Rollins, and then Rollins getting all crazy and snapping, and then building up into another match.
I don't want. I must be the only living person. I don't want Seth as a heel. What's my problem? I like him being rude. I enjoy, like, watching the people rooting for him. Am I nuts? I'm nuts.
No, it's just the place he's been put in right now. When you're facing a guy like CM Punk, that's the fans are going to sway towards that. It's just a matter of fact. Like, there's just some people that I always gravitate towards as a fan favorite, and he is one of them because he's the everyman. He's the relatable guy. When you have a guy who's dressing up like he's dressing up, he's not relating to people. Like, people aren't walking down the street wearing the fur coats and the presentation. And I get why he's doing it. It's sports entertainment and it's entertainment, but say it again.
The puffy shoulders that go up to here.
Exactly. Like, where he's going to the Met Gala every Monday night. Like,
it is a Met Gala. That's it. I think his outfits are so stupid.
So I think it's a disconnect. If he went back to a little bit a little bit down like that way, maybe that way. But if you're a villain like Becky Lynch was trying to be, that's kind of the direction she went. And I think that's
like Big Time Dex.
I liked a little bit of it. I definitely thought it had potential, but I just felt it was very forced. And I think Seth has more of a natural heel to him.
So you see Becky as a baby face and Seth as the heel. I see.
I don't think we're going to go with Becky as a bad guy.
No, and I think you're right. I do think you're right. I think you're right. I think Punk wins. Seth goes crazy. And then when he comes back the next week, he'll be wearing black tights and all that shit is gone.
I don't know about that. I think he might still. I think he'll be even more over the top with that sort of thing. I think that's the opposite way. I think he's going to go more over the top. He's just going to like freak out and snap. So yeah, but I could see your way too. He can come out with the white face paint like Sting and like sit in the rafters.
I just meant he like gets
he can go full on emo, you know, with the black tears and the
dark. Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. Does Rhea finally win?
Yeah, I don't see how that doesn't happen. And I think Finn Balor might have something to do with that actually, because they've had a little butting at the heads in the last couple weeks between Finn and Liv. Little power struggle maybe, I don't know what, but you're seeing a little underlying kind of hostility between the two of them. But yeah, either way, I think Rhea takes it.
Jey Uso and Drew McIntyre. Are you interested in this match? Drew's going to win, right?
It's just the card is just so stacked that it's hard to even think about. Like all these matches are like one after another. They can all be main events on a Raw, so they're all happening on one night. Is pretty crazy. So Drew and Jey though, like wow. I just want to talk about just like being in an arena with his entrance. It's just like unbelievable experience. It's more than entrance. It's like an experience. Like you're at a rock concert with everyone. And literally everybody, all walks of life, kids, adults, seniors, they're all doing it. And it's just crazy to see his popularity. Yeah, that's why I think, I agree with you. I think Drew would probably win this just because Jey, doesn't need to win right now, but they're trying to build up Drew again. But he did beat Sami Zayn. So it's kind of like, what are they going? Which I guess that would be direction they're trying to go in. If they're going to build Jey Uso up, you want to have him win. Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah.
Do you see any world? This is a 2-hour show, correct, on Netflix?
I thought it was a 3-hour show. Well, he spoke to Jimmy Train, I think, Sports Illustrated or wherever outlet, and Paul Triple H mentioned that they're very flexible when it comes to the time frame of the show. So they never really said how long the show is going to be. They just said starting at 8:00. So who knows when it'll end? But I thought it was I was under the impression it was at least a 3-hour show. But
are you seeing any other, before we pivot over to AEW, are you seeing any other surprise appearance?
Yeah, I definitely see, if you can call it a surprise, a Becky Lynch showing up. But at the same time, do you really need that many surprises? The Rock going to be on the show, John Cena going to be on the show. You have all these big matches. They have to remember that they have shows coming up the next 51 weeks. So they got to put together big shows that as well. We already know. I think this was a smart move to move the Intercontinental Women's Championship match to next week for the second week. So they have their time, and Dakota Kai and Lyra Valkyria can have the time to put on a good match and have the focus be on them. So I think they're thinking about that. The next couple weeks there are very important as well, because you can't just blow your load on the one show and then kind of just move it on. So I think they need to trickle it down. So Seth or whoever promised more surprises beyond what we know. So
Seth did?
Yeah. He said something about surprises. So of course we don't know. But they haven't technically advertised Becky Lynch. So that'll be a surprise if she comes technically.
What about Charlotte? But
I don't know. I feel like they need to wait on some appearances because you don't want to throw everything out there. It's going to get buried.
Royal Rumble, too.
Yeah, and SmackDown. I mean, you have SmackDown. We're going to find out eventually Jade Cargill. She kind of who attacked her, because she's been teasing on social media a little bit here and there. So I think she's starting to slowly get back into the mix.
It is.
Charlotte, Charlotte Flair, kind of her way of coming back, and they can go back to that little interaction that the two had between the two of them. But
it's Naomi or Bianca.
They can go in that direction too. That's what's so cool about it right now, is it could be like you have viable explanations for any of them. Like, why else? I guess Naomi would be the most likely out of I think Bianca and Naomi, because why would Bianca attack her tag team partner to make her lose the championship when she's a champion with her? It hurts her too, so it makes kind of no sense in my opinion. It makes more sense for Naomi because she's the third wheel in a sense. This got her a chance at the title. She got Bianca to stand behind her, and then kind of go from there. But then Naomi is going to have to like change a little bit about her way. But fans still love Naomi.
Glowing anymore, it'll be black, dark.
Yeah, you want to turn everybody just goth.
Dark.
Everyone's going to be goth.
Talk to me about. Okay, before we get into Worlds End, I am not happy. Now you're probably going to disagree with me, but this Ricochet thing really upset me. I don't want him as a heel, but I know he wasn't working as a babyface in AEW. It was a natural progression because the fans were not into him. When he would do matches, it didn't seem they weren't yaying him before he turned heel. Do you like this heel turn? I feel icky about it. Like, he wasn't working as a babyface. They had too many, but now they've made him this horrible heel.
I love it because now he's leaning into people's social media, how he is on social media. He's leaning into everything in the ring. Use the visuals with the toilet paper, and I just thought Monday he had a home run. Like, I think him and Swerve, what he did to Swerve and the look he had with the glasses, he looked like a freaking serial killer, like Dexter. I don't know what, but he looked calculated. He looked like, I think this is great. If he leans more into this is the Ricochet that I want to see. I think has a lot of potential to make this a big year for him if he goes down this road and he kind of really pulls it off, which he kind of is showing up that he can right now.
I just thought once the toilet paper thing happened, right, he was going to snap. And how can you not, in a way, root for Ricochet? Because what Swerve did was pretty humiliating, right? So he snapped, I guess, right? But they were leaning into this. You could tell they were going this way because I didn't understand why he was laughing. I didn't understand.
Yeah, that is kind of, I think they need to cut that part out. Lose that. Yes. Lose that.
If they
do more of Wednesday and less of that.
Yes, I'm with you. If we get rid of and all that icky.
You're pretty good at that, by the way.
I am doing impressions at the comedy club tonight here in LA.
Are you?
Yes. So that Ricochet thing I hate. The thing is it gonna, if we're gonna watch Ricochet as one of the greatest high flyers, I mean, are we just gonna now watch him like gouge people's eyes out and like what happens to all those moves that we love to see? That's my thing. Or how much of that gets thrown out? You know,
that's a good point. That's a good point because you don't want to be a flashy. You don't want to be a flash. It's almost like the Young Bucks. They kind of took a lot of their offense out because they didn't want to give the people what they want in a sense because he wanted not to be cheered. They wanted not to be cheered. But I think there's a balance that he can find, and maybe he doesn't do as many. And that's probably good for him anyway with his longevity. And from a storytelling perspective, you don't need to do 800,000 flips in a match and get people drawn in when you're kind of developing this character that he is. So that'll be interesting to see what his next match.
It's so weird. Like, I'm wondering why. Like, I totally get the heel turn. And I'm like, why don't I want to see? Like, I was like, oh no, Ricochet. I must be such a dumb shit. I'm like, oh no.
Ricochet. I have a friend who just loves Ricochet. I
love him too.
They think he puts on the great matches, and
if he
wants to show someone wrestling that's never seen it, like that's a fan of like something else. They say they want to show him a Ricochet match just because of how exciting they are with the flips and the acrobatics and the things like that. So, I mean, I get it, but
has he ever been a heel? Was he was never a heel in WWE? Was he? I don't remember any time.
No, not really. Nothing crazy like that. I actually thought he was going to be perfect for the Hurt Business if he was going to become with that. But maybe
he will now join the Hurt Business. Yes,
they see this side of him, and then now they're going to want him on the group. Right.
Speaking of the Hurt Business, what the F with Max Caster and Anthony Bowen? So, where is this going? They got to break them up, right?
Yeah, I don't know if this is even a good move. Like, I don't understand why they were such a hot tag team. Like,
they were really
the reactions they were getting, that they were getting mainstream kind of buzz a little bit with people do the scissoring, and it was all over the place. Why would you not lean more into that? Like New Day, I get what happened with New Day. Maybe they see what happened with New Day, but the difference between them and New Day is New Day was around for 10 years and they've kind of exhausted every little thing. I think the Acclaimed still had so much left to give. Unless they kind of want to keep Anthony Bowens away from Max, who's very controversial and has a lot of, there's points in time where he gets in a lot of hot water to the extent of maybe they don't see him lasting. I don't know what the reasoning behind it, but they're both very talented and they kind of fit each other very well. Just surprised by it.
The story helped me here. The Max Caster story, I'm so great. I mean, I don't even understand what his deal is. As a storytelling perspective, I don't get the Max Caster persona right now. Like, what is that? Is he a heel?
Yeah, I think they're going in that direction, but I agree with you. It's just,
or is Bowen's going to be the heel?
It's a disconnect. I think Caster's the heel. Max is going to be the heel. The way they're building it up anyway. So that's going to be the direction they go. If that's
sad. I don't think they broken up the Acclaim.
No, it's definitely premature. Like you're taking one of the acts that I was actually getting reactions and just killing. You're just stomping it out. Like that's the problem AEW's had over the years is they have a hot thing going on, and then you just stomp it out for some reason or another, and it kills the vibe. You're just pulling away from something that was working, and then you're starting from from jump, and it's just.
I think you're right. I think every organization, WWE, AEW, you need your tentpole people. You can't turn everybody heel. You know what I mean?
You can't do it all at once or all abruptly, and especially just, like I don't understand. Explain to me Hangman Page. Like I don't. I'm like, okay, they're going in a direction where he's going to be cheered again. Oh no, he's going to be a villain. Like I don't know if they know what to do with him at this point because I like him and I thought he was going to go lean into the more crazy cowboy thing like that, but I don't get him. Someone explain to me.
This is the most upsetting to me is Hangman. I was a huge Hangman Adam Page good guy fan when he held the belt. I thought he was a great wrestler. I'm probably one of 5 people, but I really liked his title run. I thought he was great. A great wrestler, the school teacher, the great guy, the great moves. He was a good guy. We rooted for him. I really like that. This version is so ridiculously, I don't understand any of it anymore. I got the Swerve Strickland vendetta. Now he's just going nuts on anyone. Like, what's his problem? What is this thing with Christopher Daniels?
I don't. That's what shows me that I don't know what the heck to do with this guy. Because
why don't you just turn him back to a good guy? Why do we need him running nuts on everybody?
Everybody has to be in a bad mood. Everyone has to be crazy. I don't understand.
I have no one tell me something. Seriously, on AEW, who am I rooting for? Darby? Who?
Yeah.
Orange? Everyone else is, there's no one I'm like, I want to get behind because they've kind of ruined the good guys.
They're in this mindset where, shades of gray sort of thing, but you need someone to cheer for. You need someone it's just a time-honored tradition. You need a connection to the fans. You need a connection to the storytelling. And when your characters are so like all over the place, like the fans don't know what to do. And you can have all the great matches and they have some great ones. And, but if your stories are not connecting and we've seen it and your characters aren't connecting, then, what the heck is happening here? And there's a lot of people on this roster right now that I don't kind of understand where they're going with them. And Jon Moxley and his Death Riders are another thing that, like, I love Jon Moxley with Marina Shafir. I think together they are awesome group. And I thought that was a really cool thing. When they first started out, I thought this thing has potential. And then things got off the rails. Like, I don't know if they were trying to figure out something fell through, or I just felt like a different direction. And then just, they're nothing for me. Like the main event of World's End did nothing for me. That main event was not
I wanted to ask you about that. Yes. And this is you were there, and I want to ask you about this. Here's just to pivot on that, and then I want to hear your take. What really threw me also is they're pushing Jay White, and I don't know, am I supposed to root for Jay White or not root for Jay White? I'm like, I thought he was bad. Is he good? What am I doing? And so Tell me about you're at World's End. I hated that match. I did not like that championship match. I thought it was a throwaway. And then the ending was clunky. And I was like, what is going on? So you were there. Tell me what. Yeah.
I think also when you're in a live situation and you're seeing most of the match happen outside the ring, it almost does a disservice to the crowd because you're just watching it on the screen because you can't see anything happening outside the ring. Yeah. And that's another thing with this match that I think did a disservice is you're watching most of the action take place out. Yeah, you had some of the in ring, but a lot of it was outside. And I'm tired of the shenanigans of this whole like Death Rider, all of this interference, all of this clunkiness, and I think it just a lot of noise. It was a means to an end, really. It was just having FTR come back and Adam Copeland come back. It was the build up to that match. And I think the problem was my wife was watching with me, right? And it's interesting to get her check on things because she's a fan, but she's not like a fan. Like I need to watch it. Yeah. Like she'll watch it. She knows it. We watch Kyle Fletcher versus Will Ospreay, right?
Best match I've ever seen. Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, damn, why that match should have been at last match. I'm like, well, we have the tournament, we have everything going on. And then I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, that Will Ospreay versus Okada match, like also like unbelievable. Like both of those bookending the start with the end, that should have been the end of the show. That should have been the main event. That should have been like the thing is, you've seen so much, and then you're throwing this four-way out that people aren't really caring about. Let's face it, they're not caring about this because it's just a story that kind of was built up, but they're not caring about the Death Riders. They don't care, and that's the thing right now. And Will Ospreay, like he is the king of pay-per-view in AEW for me. Just the performance that he gave, the fans, the crowd reaction this dude gets, like unbelievable. And then the story they told with him coming back, it was very King of the Ring 96 with Stone Cold, where he came back with the bandage and everything, and he fought back on Okada, who's also amazing. Like, Okada's one of the actually pleasant surprises of AEW right now because, yeah, you knew he was a good worker, but as a performer, as an entertainer, like, he does these little things in his promos, and he does these things in the ring that, like, he knows how to play. He knows spring psychology, how to play that off. And I think and Kenny Omega's return, that should have been the close of the show. That's the problem. The fatal four-way that nobody cared about, and I get you're bringing Adam back, but still, that should have been in the middle of the show or something like that.
I have to just tell you. So I love, as we've talked, because I want to just explain my AEW position. I love AEW because the wrestling is amazing.
Right.
When I saw Will Ospreay Kyle Fletcher match, I texted you. I said, this is amazing. I texted you and you were there. I'm like, yeah. I could not believe what an amazing match. And it must have been, wasn't the crowd so into it?
Electric. Like the crowd was so hyped for Ospreay and Fletcher. Also, kudos to that guy. Like he is someone like, I'm going to be so frustrated if AEW does this again, because here's another guy who's building momentum, getting crowd reaction, getting the crowd into him. You see this guy like evolve, like transform in the last couple of weeks, right? Into what we've been seeing. And then if you pull the plug on this guy rather than pushing him to the moon, like you're doing yourself a disservice. And that just showed even in defeat, like he's really come a long way in a little time.
And then I was with you 100%. I mean, I myself, when I'm like at home watching the pay-per-view and Ospreay's music hit, I'm like, oh my God, he's here. He's got,
his like, music's amazing too. Like,
amazing. I think it's the best, honestly. Yeah. That music is probably the best entrance music. So I'm like, oh my God, he's here. I gotta see it. I gotta go. Like, that's how the crowd is. And I'm even at home when he comes out. When the Okada match happened, I was surprised because I thought it might be Ricochet versus Will. And they went with Okada. And I thought the match was great. I was a little disappointed they didn't give Will the win. Why are they not giving Will the win? He's been losing a lot. What's the deal with that part? I don't get.
Well, that was a means to build up Okada for Kenny Omega, so I totally get
that.
And the fact that he was already so much was taken out of him by Kyle Fletcher. That's just builds up Kyle Fletcher even
yeah,
more. So I actually was okay with that, because it's not like Will was at 100%. He had been through a war with Kyle Fletcher. I think they building him up, and I think it's going to come up in, whether it's one of their big stadium shows. I think Ospreay is going to have his time. I was fine with him not winning in that match. Because it shows he's the human. It's human side. You want to cheer an underdog. So making him the underdog, I think, will help him, make him even more stronger here. So that's the way I'm going. I was fine with him losing that match.
The other match I really thought was great was Mercedes Moné and Chris Statlander. I was blown away. They were so great. Say what you will about Mercedes Moné, amazing in the ring, and Chris was great. I mean, that match I wanted to know, from you being there, it seemed like it was electric too. Was it not? Or
yeah,
not?
and I think Mercedes, they wanted to not cheer Mercedes, but she's just so good that you have to respect her in-ring ability. Like, these haters on social media, like, they don't like her. You can feel the way you want about her, but you cannot deny her ability in the ring when the bell rings. Like, her matches, like, she elevates other people as well when she's wrestling them. It's not just, take. She actually does elevate the talent and increases their profile. And I think she has done that with Chris Statlander, and showed that she can reach this next level. And the last time they faced off, they had a great match too. So, but they have some great in-ring chemistry, and just the power and strength of Chris just was shown through. And one of the things you can even, it just shows you how you could still be a winner in defeat, is Chris lost that match, but the reaction the crowd gave her, like, they gave her like a standing ovation. They clapped. She got up. They gave her so much appreciation for that match, because they appreciated what she did and respected what she did against Mercedes, even in defeat. So she kind of came away a lot, I should say.
I was so impressed with Mercedes doing the 4 suplexes for Eddie Guerrero. I literally sat here like, all right, she's it. Mercedes Moné. Like, I've always loved her as Sasha Banks. And I like that she backed it up a bit in this, instead of just mouthing off every time. Like, she backed it up.
Yeah, and there's so much. I don't understand why people, if they think about her real story, just the sacrifices she made. Like, she had a very tough time growing up, like her upbringing and poverty and things like that. And she takes care of her brother, and her family, and her brother's special needs, and she's there for him, and she helps. And, like, if they kind of knew just any of that, like, or thought about it, like, and just see how far she's come. And yeah, she's getting paid a lot, but good for her. Like, good for her to get paid and go to the bank and get that money that she feels she's worth. And she clearly, others think that too. No matter what you feel, they think she is. And good kudos to her and how she's been able to kind of build her career. Everyone's like, why didn't she go back to WWE? It's a big mistake. I mean, it all matters what's in the bank, right? Like, and her family, and taking care of them and making sure they're taken care of. And if that's a secure thing, and she's getting the chance to wrestle not only in AEW, but in Japan, Stardom, New Japan, whatever. They just had a match with Mina Shirakawa, where another great matchup. She won another championship. So, you may not like her 100%. I'm not a fan of her promo work a lot of times. That's not her strong suit, but her in-ring work, incredible. So you can hate her all you want, but she's laughing all the way to the bank.
You had interviewed her at one point?
Yeah, I interviewed her a couple times.
When you talk to her, for those just, because I kind of like, I want to know, like, the real life persona, what you got from her talking with her.
Well, I've talked to her on red carpets and things like that. And kind of a random thing was at a 2K party. Snoop Dogg was there, and I was like one of the only people talking. They got me to talk to Snoop Dogg for like a couple minutes. So we talked about, being cousins and things like that. And I actually have a photo of me and her and Snoop, and we're all doing the thing that she did with but I'm doing it like really badly. So it's kind of funny to see that photo, but it's such a cool photo. But, I talked to her most recently when she first came back when she came back to for New Japan. And and she's a good interview. She just talk. I feel like when you're talking to her, it is a very authentic person, like behind all the makeup and the cameras and the flash and everything like that. Yeah, there's a little bit of the personality in there, but I think beyond that, I think there is a deeper connection that she has with the crowd and her story and things like that.
I wanted to ask you about what was it like in the audience for MJF and Adam Cole, and why does this now not seem? Why do I not care?
I think it comes down. Everyone's like, oh, MJF lost his way. I don't know. I don't think that. I just think he needs to move on from the Adam Cole stuff, and I'm not sure who that's going to be. But definitely still a talent. Definitely can get a reaction. Definitely can go in the ring. I loved when he pulled the thing down, his backdrop. that was tremendous. But
did that get a good reaction? And when you were there in the crowd, was it huge reactions throughout?
I mean, him coming out to the ring got a good reaction. Adam Cole comes to the ring, he gets a good reaction with Adam Cole Baby and things like that. But the problem is Roderick Strong, Matt Taven, Kyle O'Reilly. Who am I missing? I think those are the three, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Mike Bennett. They're just backdrop filler. Like they just come off as when Roderick Strong came out to the ring, I don't think it got like that big of a reaction, to be honest. And it was cool to see all of them together again, but I think the ship has sailed in that sense. Like it was cool to see, but unless they prove otherwise and do something different, I think the fans aren't reacting like they were in NXT having this group there. And Kyle O'Reilly was on like when he was on his own thing.
That at all. So he was weird about the whole thing. And all of a sudden he's fine.
Yeah, there's just a lot of disconnect. And where the hell is Wardlow? You don't even acknowledge this guy. Like he's part of this group that you formed, and you're just like ignoring, like unless they're purposely making you forget. So he comes back and beats up everyone. I thought it would have been cool to see like Wardlow and MJF like together again in some form. They haven't really quote finished their story. So that's another guy that
unless Wardlow becomes frustrating. MJF's henchman.
Yeah. That's what I'm like. But I thought that, the whole thing with MJF went down, unfortunately, collateral damage. Wardlow was collateral damage. And they never recovered with him. And I'm not sure what's going on with him or what, but there was a point where he was like the hottest thing going in AEW. And like he could have been like their franchise guy. They built
amazing. I was so excited every week Wardlow came on and powerbombed or whatever he did to everybody. It was like great.
Yeah. But I think right now, like Cole and MJF need to go their separate ways and like move on to something else. Adam Cole, he's been through a lot, like personally and professionally, physically. So you feel for the guy and hope that he can like rebound into something else. Keep in mind, we got someone else waiting in the wings too, Christian Cage. One thing I do appreciate that the AEW has done is you have Jon Moxley, but you also have Christian Cage. You also have Jay White. You also have Orange Cassidy. Like there's people, all these people are going after your AEW championship. So you're making it feel important. I think the time is right though, to pull the trigger and get that title off Jon Moxley, in my opinion. And there was the stare down though, between Moxley and Adam Copeland. By the way, I cannot stand that Cope thing. They're just opening up a can of worms with the whole Cope. Like you go on social media and you see they're all making fun of it, and it's just, I don't know. That's not going to grow on me.
So this is the other thing. So Rated FTR comes out, and you're there. Did it get that big of a pop?
Oh yeah, like that got a big reaction. Like,
I mean, are you
Copeland came out?
Copeland is back.
I'm excited. I mean, he's one of my favorites since forever, so I'm excited to have him back. But I don't know what's going on. Like they're going to go for the trios title. I don't know, but there's definitely something with John and Adam Copeland. But I fear if they wait too long to have this like connection between the two of them, that's gonna, it's not gonna be meaningful as much.
When you say connection, you mean against each other? Or
Against each other, I'm sorry. And when they have their interaction, that was really good. And they need to start like building up that and kind of, because he's a shot in the arm for AEW, like star power. But it's interesting to me though that like he's this big, massive star, Chris Jericho, and then just starting like drawing these houses has been a challenge for them. Like getting people into these buildings, like that's not a pay-per-view. Like they drew great in Orlando, but it was a smaller, it wasn't a massive, it was still 7,000 people on a night where they have WWE. So that's still incredible. But as far as like building up the bigger buildings every week, or even drawing like the smaller buildings, like they're having problems that are having all these people. But now I think they have a lot of stars that have come back, that they're kind of having the Adam Coles and the Adam Copelands and the MJF's work, Kenny Omega. So I'm interested to see how this does with drawing houses, because that's going to be the telling part about it.
Right. I mean, I hope that 2025, like you said, the wrestling's amazing. I hope the stories get a lot better, and I hope we understand who's what. Because
that's the problem. Like, I wish.
And I don't mind it being a gray area, but when everyone's a gray area, I'm like, I don't know what is going on.
I think it comes down, like, I get Tony Khan being a proud man and wanting to take ownership of the company, and he's so passionate and he's such a fan of the industry, but he needs to let more people in. Like, he needs to have an open mind. He needs to, like, it comes to a point where, are you happy? You're happy here? Like, why don't you want to, elevate a little bit more? And if he brings some more minds in, and maybe he's a little bit more open-minded. I don't know what's going on in these creative meetings or what, but he's very emphatic about, hey, I'm the head of creative AEW. And that's fine. And Vince was like that too. But also that also was a deterrent for Vince McMahon, is not being open-minded and letting people in. And he has all these other responsibilities too. He's got, soccer teams and football teams, all these other responsibilities. Why don't you want to like have an open mind and kind of hear other visions and things like that? Like, obviously he's got to, the thing is, he comes down to admitting, maybe don't admit it to us, fine, but admit it to someone that, hey, something needs to change. Like, something's not working. It's great that you're having a great television partner that believes in you and stands behind you and wants to see you succeed, but you obviously have to look at the numbers. Like, from an audience standpoint, that's your gauge. Like, if you're seeing the crowds and houses being nothing what they were before, something is wrong, right? In any company, you're going to look at ways that you can change that. Well, and if you're going to keep going for the status quo, nothing's going to change.
So when I worked with Vince McMahon and I was writing with the WWE, we would go into, we'd do a show, and at 7 a.m, we had to be in his hotel room, and the writers, and we would all go in there. Now we're giving him ideas, no matter how great the ideas were. At the end of the day, Vince is making the decision. So we could give him the greatest story. He'll axe it all and just go with, it's kind of that thing, like, he's in charge. This is what he wants to do. This is what we're going to do. Even though we've all been working to death to try to come up with amazing ideas and story arcs and, things. And it would never, most of the time he would do his own thing anyways. So I'm relating that to the Tony Khan syndrome. Like, I saw this firsthand with Vince. We would all go in there. We had ideas. We threw them out. But at the end of the day, when it push came to shove for TV or whatever, he made the final decisions, and it would all change.
Yeah. And Tony seems to be in the mindset as, like, if I give these good matches, people are going to come and watch it. Because I'm a fan and I want to, it's almost like a video game. I'm like putting together these match types, but he's missing the other part of it, the important part of it too, which is also giving us the characters and stories. Like, I think in 2025 in pro wrestling, it's having these big names like John Cena, The Rock, and things are great. But if you're not giving us current talent that's like over and connected with the audience, then it's not going to be good for the future and for the maintaining the reason WWE is so popular and everyone's so, over, as the kids say, or adults say, is because they're connected to the stories and the characters that WWE gave us reasons to care through the storytelling, through the characters, not
Because
we're having this match, this match, this match, this match.
I think what's happening at the syndrome at AEW, I think when they don't, what I'm seeing is just even Action Andretti and Leo Rush, it's like when no one's working, let's make him a heel. When no one's working, let's make him a heel. If the story's not working, let's make them a heel. That's all I'm kind of like, hey, let's make him a heel. Like, there has to be other ways to do that than just like, let's just make them a heel. Right? I guess.
Yeah, you got to find, well, they have some bright spots. They've had.
No, and I love that. I love so much of
Tony
it.
Tony Storm can't do no wrong. Like the story that they're telling right now is still brilliant. Like they've managed to find another layer of that. So there are bright spots. I liked where they were going with the Adam Cole MJF. The payoff did not like, but they were faced with a lot of different challenges, injuries, things that didn't help things. So I get that. So they have the potential of telling some really great stories, and they have in the past. It's a matter of kind of going in on that, seeing what's works, seeing what doesn't, kind of do that sort of thing.
All right, Scott. Thanks for today. Happy New Year, everybody. I guess we have a big show tomorrow, and then Royal Rumble coming up, and more bad guys at AEW, and
we're in a busy time of the year, exciting part of the year.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching, and we will be back soon. So keep checking the Michael Fairman channel, and you can find Scott at TV Insider and at give him your
SM Fishman on the X and on Facebook.
You really should follow him on X because he has a running commentary, right?
Yes, follow me. Yes,
follow him because he does give a running commentary through the day or even during a thing, right? You're always like giving little wrestling nuggets or props.
I try.
Props. He does give props. Where
I'm one of the most positive people on X. So if you want to break from the toxicity, then I'm there for you.
If you don't want toxicity, go to Scott for sure. Because you're always like, good, this is great that they're doing this.
I like the feel good thing. I like to draw attention. There's so much negativity and like I don't need to be spreading that too.
I agree. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Have a great Sunday. Bye-bye.